your host, Samantha Stone. I've been gone a couple weeks on vacation, but I am excited to be home. I had a chance to stop by the Know Your Neighbor dinner yesterday, and it was really fun to see people. And of course, I'm super excited to be filming again. And welcome, as always, we start our show with Scott Galvin. Welcome.
Hey, Samantha, nice to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I left, it was like spring 60 degrees, and I came home and there was snow on the ground. I don't know what that was about, but I'll get used to it.
It's still March. We could have more snow, but we've been pretty fortunate so far this winter, and had a lot of small storms, and the DPW stepped up and have really done a nice job during the time, because a lot of times we have snow is 2 or 3 inches, but it's over a prolonged period, so they're still out there working hard. So we give them a lot of credit this winter.
Yeah, they do work really hard, and I'm grateful for the streets being cleared and safe. And they always do a good job. My youngest son leaves for work usually at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and he's always able to get out no matter what's going on. And I know that's not easy. So yeah, appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit about the center. I know that there are orange flags and orange lights, but I'm not sure I know exactly what's happening. I know we're orange Woburn, but I know it's for something specific. So tell us a little bit about what's happening there.
This is the second year we've done that. We were approached by one Woburn resident, Jan Fuller, who's a pretty avid runner. She's actually a very good runner, and she's been raising money for MS for quite a while, and she asked last year to do it, and we were happy to do it. So City Council was firmly behind it, and the orange flags and orange lights will stay up for the rest of the month.
That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. It's a good cause. People should check it out and check out what Jan is doing. I know that we have recently announced, I guess earlier in the month, the end of the drought in Massachusetts, which is always good news and might have something to do with some of the less snow, more rain. I'm not sure, but that is good news. I couldn't remember if that was sort of a typical thing that happens every year, or are we going into spring and summer in a better position than usual?
You know what? I think I'd have to go back and look historically, but I think generally that after the winter we are in pretty good shape. That's the first time I've actually seen a notice, from the state. So they're taking it pretty seriously now, and we definitely get into drought. No matter how much precipitation we have, we're always getting into drought conditions by June, July. So it's nice to see that we're not, that the groundwater has been recharged. It's really important for our wells, to have consistently have that groundwater recharged. So we're happy about that. And I'll take a look back, and we'll have the engineer come on and talk more about that. But I do think we go into, we've had winters where the groundwater does get recharged to the point where it needs to be.
Good. Well, that is good news. Without a lot of snow, I wasn't sure what position we were in, so I was glad to see that announcement. I want to talk a little bit about Horn Pond. So we recently had sort of a sad, one of our eagles, they suspect had gotten rat poison from probably eating a rodent of some kind, and didn't survive that. It always brings up the constant challenge we have as a city of balancing rats and safely doing that. There are some other cities that do, different kinds of rat control programs. I don't know if this is I don't even know who would look into this. Would this be the Department of Health, or who?
Well, I think that eagle that you talk about, that was in Arlington, but we've had situations where we've had owls, a number, rear owls that have had similar fate, where they ate a rat that was poisoned. But that big eagle was in Arlington.
I just want to claim it.
He was a pretty magnificent bird.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm glad to know that.
But it's not specific to the city of Woburn. It happens across the state and probably across the country. But it does. I agree. There has to be a better way to do that, because that's a pretty majestic bird, and there aren't a lot of eagles, and even the owls that we have are magnificent creatures. And I'm sure I keep giving you ideas for your programs, but we have so many bird watches down at Horn Pond that you could do a program just on that, and you have some pretty unique characters who come on and tell you all about the different categories of birds that they're watching. It's really become the nature and all that has really been incredible, and it's grown over the years. But
yeah, we're really lucky. Yesterday, Scott and I ran into each other walking Horn Pond. I was with my cousin who lives in another city nearby, and she'd never been to Horn Pond. So I was like, you have to come take a walk with me. And we were remarking on how lucky we are to have this, lovely gem right in the city, as we've talked about in the past. So is it the Department of Health that would look into that program, or is it a different group within the city?
The Board of Health is the one that is in control, or is in charge of road and control, and they follow state regulations, and we do the baiting. In the springtime, Jack Freilich will get out there and do he'll bait the areas around the drains and the open areas to try to control that. But it's always a losing battle when you're chasing after that. There's a lot of things we as individuals we can do on our own property to address that. And another good topic that I'm sure we can talk about in the spring.
Yeah. I switched to metal trash cans, sort of to do something in my own home. I failed to realize how easily those metal trash cans would get crushed and the lids don't fit on, right? Yeah. So I'm going to come up with a better solution, I think. But we all can, you're right, not leave garbage out, take care of what we see, those kinds of things. So appreciate that. I have had at least 10 people reach out, Scott, and speculate on whether you're running for mayor again. And rather than leave it to speculation, I wanted to ask you outright if you're going to be running again, or if you've made a decision. You might not have made a decision.
No, I'm running again. I've had this is my seventh term. I'm finishing up, and I've prior to this there was speculation that this was going to be my last term. So I think that a lot of people do speculate and like to talk, but I enjoy the job, and not every day but I do overall I do enjoy the job. I find satisfaction and what we've been able to complete over the past 14 years, and again it's really a collaborative effort that we're able to get so much done, and I'm proud of where the city is today, and the things that we've all accomplished together.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. And it's better to have the real information. I appreciate that. The last thing that I wanted to mention to you was, I know we've been having Hurl Park vision sessions. They've been great. I sit down in one of them recently, and I loved the discussion, and the plans look amazing. Like we seem super lucky to have this grant money and such a thoughtful process going through. I know one of the things that has been raised is some concern from current neighbors that are adjacent to the property about where the walking paths will be and how close to their property lines that might be. I know the designs are not finalized. I just wanted to give you an opportunity for anyone who does have that concern, if there's anything we've already talked about to address that, or if they should continue to come to meetings. What are the best ways for them to?
Well, I think this is an evolving process, and it is I think it's always good to participate when something is going to impact maybe your house directly or your neighborhood, but this has been a very thoughtful process, and we'll work the best we can to minimize the impacts on anybody. But I think that at the end of the day, it's a lot of open space down there, and we're doing the best we can to preserve all of it in its natural state, and the front part will be a much smaller active recreation, which will be great for the kids in that neighborhood and in the entire city. But we're looking forward to it, and we're again really fortunate to have a very supportive congresswoman who has delivered over $3 million in funds, and a great state rep who's done his part at the local level as well, and he's got us. I don't want to sell him short, but it's over $300,000 that he's delivered for that project. So a lot of support from our state and federal delegation, and also the city council has been great, and we're trying to work something that's going to be good for the entire city and the neighbors down there.
I love it. I'm really excited about it. I happen to live close, so I'm extra lucky, but I know it'll be a great spot for a lot of people to have an additional resource and special place that we can take good care of that wildlife area also, which has been really sort of just left at this point. So if we can care for it and return it to things, I think that's awesome. Anything that you'd like to add before I let you go, Scott?
No, but I think there's, we do have, what I'd like to do next week is give you an update on some of the other capital projects, where we are. And, I know that, we've got that, the Plimpton it is going out to bid to be, for demolition. The fire station's open.
So I'm just going to stop you right now.
Yep.
There will be mass applause at that sentence that just came out of your mouth. And I don't want to let it pass as just a little passing thing. I know that there's a lot of people who've been really worried and passionate about it. So that's great to hear. Yeah.
So I'll give you a better update next week. But, one of the things we're waiting for was there is this storage from, one of the aldermen, Lou DeMambro, just popped in. So I talked to him.
Lou.
How are you?
Samantha says hi.
Hi, Samantha.
Lou and I saw each other at the Know Your Neighbor dinner last night.
Yes.
Yeah, these young aldermen, they're everywhere. So they get out and about. They're really good for the community. So yeah,
well, I know for the Plimpton School, we were waiting for storage. There were some things there from the fire department. We needed the fire department to finish the rights to some of those files, and now that looks like that's happening. So
yeah, they'll be in. So I'll give you a list, and you can ask me other questions. But that'll be good to get into, the Plimpton and other projects that are starting to get up to full speed.
Fantastic. That's great news. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again next week.
Good to see you. Take care.
Next up, I'm excited to be talking with Mike. Mike has been on the show a couple of times for a variety of things, but this is a very special visit. Mike has announced he's running for mayor, and I'm excited to chat with you. I have a million questions that have come from my own curiosity, but also lots of people who have been sending me interesting questions as well. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being back with you.
And I appreciate that you have an orange tie. You're getting your Woburn on. That's great. That's great. I wanted to start today. You had articulated out in your announcement a big piece of some of the things that are important to you. And I thought we could start with that. And one of the things that you talk about in that announcement was the City of Woburn Charter. And some concerns you have about balance of power and things. And I've not read it word for word because I'm not that dedicated. I'm just being upfront. It's a lot. But I have actually multiple times, joking aside, I have skimmed through and read most of it in some form. I am not a lawyer. I am not an expert on it. And I don't expect you to be either. But it is something that you pulled out as central to you. So I wanted to get a sense from you, what in that charter do you think should be changed? And also kind of the process of doing that. There are state laws and things that limit what we can and can't do. So just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. And as you stated, I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know all the ins and outs legally. But I have been working diligently to put together an effective campaign, which is still currently in the, planning and building stages. So there's still a lot of work to be had. Like you said, in the past, I have skimmed through it. Now more so, I'm really reading in depth, lots of side notes, lots of questions. I've had several meetings with varied individuals, to include members of the city council, to get their thoughts and concerns of the city charter. During the teacher strike, many discussions came up based on the topic and how there should be an equal balance of power through the city government. If elected, I will work with the Rules Committee and all the members involved to discuss the potential changes for a more effective government entity as a whole. The process is, I bring some concerns up, but the bottom line is it's going to eventually go through the city council. That's any changes I can't just say, this is what I want to see changed. And I want to work together as a team, and we should be working together with all involved, on a more transparent level in order to achieve common goals. Number one in the city charter, pardon me, mouth is dry today. Number one in the city charter is that the citizens of the body, and a mayor's position should be to represent the citizens of Woburn. And I am open to any and all forms of communication with questions, concerns while I'm in office, if I'm in office, to ensure that all the citizens, all the residents, staff, etc., feel that they have a voice and that voice is heard and that their issues are taken to heart. The residents have all the power to vote. They put us in. And it's our duties and responsibilities to represent them to the best of our abilities.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot, but this is something I want you to think about for the next time you come back, because we'll have a long election cycle. And I know you've been kind enough to offer, to come back as we get closer to the elections. I am really curious to understand if we need a change in charter, or are there other ways to achieve the concerns and things that you have? And the reason I raise that is for example, when we wanted to change city we used to call them aldermen, right? And we wanted to change to city councilor. It actually took forever. Okay, I'm exaggerating. It didn't take forever, obviously, but it took an enormous amount of time to make what was a pretty innocuous change, modernization of titles, better reflection of our community, because it has to go to the state house and all the things that have to go along with it. So I can imagine the amount of time it might take to make other more substantial changes. So I would love, just like, put it in your head, think about it. And then when we talk next time, let's go a little bit deeper on the charter and what we really need to change versus how we maybe need to lead and manage, and how those things intersect with each other. Having said that, oh no, please go ahead.
No, and you made a valid point as I wrote down my notes for the next time we discuss, and as I'm going through it, and it's going to involve meetings, it may come to the point where we don't have to change anything. Like you just said, it's just one of those, you're going to hear a lot during my campaign, the word team. And, when I say team, I'm not just talking about, we'll just say my direct staff in the mayor's office. I'm talking city council, union officials, department heads, want to work together with them, so you're 100% right. There might not be a need for an actual legal change in the charter. It's just how we go about things differently. Yeah. And I won't know till the time comes, and I'm going to do my homework.
Excellent. Well, I love that. I want to talk about something that might be more near and dear to your heart. So you are a businessman. You have run a couple of businesses in Woburn, I believe. You'll correct me and give me the whole picture. But one of the things that the mayor has done and is responsible for is sort of the economic health of our community, including our businesses. And we've just hired, for example, a new person in charge of interactions with businesses. And I'm so excited to meet her. She's going to come on the show in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk in detail about that new role. But I'm curious what things you think we as a city do well today to support local businesses. And then equally, what are things that you wish we would do more of?
It's Samantha, it's a loaded question. My interaction with a lot of the city departments, especially at the Bolodrome, as you know, the Ganji family owns that as a whole. I'm not the sole owner. There's, a joke in our family that we all own a brick. Some of us own a piece of, some of us own a piece of the grout in between the brick. That's me. I own a piece of that grout. But my involvement is active with the day-to-day operations. And for years, there I was kind of side by side with my cousin Ed, and now my mother and my uncle, and there's tons of cousins involved. My interaction with a lot of the department heads and departments, even employees, licensing commission, building department, fire department, they've been a lot of help when we need it. And, especially if you go and ask them, for the most part, they are there. The license committee years ago, was before my time, worked very hard along with my cousin Ed to get the beer and wine license that we never had. It was great. There was a little, I wish during COVID we had a little bit more financial assistance through the city. And I'm sure a lot of businesses do feel and had felt the same way, but that's all in the past. Can't live in the past. Can only, hopefully none of us have to go through that again.
That's hope.
To play on, or to continue on to your question, and I'm not exactly answering it directly, but I've got questions that I saw on Facebook that has to do with how to support small businesses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things I have seen on Facebook so far has been the downtown businesses. Downtown, we have a wide variety of restaurants. There's no shortage of restaurants in the city of Woburn at all. And I just go back to even my
childhood. As a person who loves to eat, I'm deeply grateful for that.
Me too. My wife's in Florida for the past week, and it's been takeout and restaurants for me. So nice. I'm loving it. But I think back to my childhood, and Woburn Center was, I remember going down with my grandmother, and it was, a lot of shops, a lot of shopping, a lot of small businesses in that aspect.
Mhm.
And hearing reading questions on Facebook regarding how to bring back those type of small businesses, I feel, especially being in the center, and I'm not being biased because my family has a business in the center, but one of the major issues, as I see as a business owner, is the parking situation, especially on that end of the center. There's just not enough parking spots. You go there on a Friday night, it's almost impossible. People are going up and down the wrong ways. It's just a lot of confusion and chaos. And that's one of the things I'd really like to direct some energy with and fix that situation. See what our options are. There's many options that can take place. And hopefully, as there's more parking, that there's more business, and we can see more of a variety of businesses down in Woburn Center versus just all restaurants. I'd love to see all those open spaces no longer be open anymore.
Yeah, it's always great to have a lot of variety and things in the center and also just across the city as well. I know we have a few centers of sort of gravity of different business commercial zones that are there. One of the other things I've heard a lot of people talk about is transportation. So if you don't live in Woburn or you don't own a car, right, it's sometimes hard to attract employees from outside the city who you might need to augment certain types of roles or staff. And I don't know if that's something that you think about very often, but if you have, I'd be curious to get your take on it.
It is okay. So I have a list. You have to see my dining room table. And everything's in piles and organized. And I have lists, and I'm working. Transportation is on my list. I'm just going to speak perfectly honest. I haven't started that part of my platform yet.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Let's talk in generalities about budgeting. So one of the things that is in a very important role of the mayor is around setting the budget. They are not the only people. We have a balance between the executive office and legislative office. City council has a very important and significant role in budgeting. But the mayor sets the initial budget and certainly sets the tone and helps sets the priorities that then the city council votes and contributes to and department heads do. As you look at the areas that you think need more attention than what we're getting today, what are some of those places that you think are a high priority for investment?
So again, and I mean this in the best way possible, another loaded question, and I love it. And I do love budget.
I only ask loaded questions, Mike. Don't you know that by now?
Good. And I love it. And the budget is obviously a big deal in the city. I mean, and especially lately, it's gotten a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. So I look at budgets differently. I can't just sit and I'm during the whole campaign, I'm going to be upfront and honest with everybody. I'm not going to say I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, or I can't do this or I can't do that, because you really don't know till you're in the big seat. What I can tell you is the budget is one of the first things I have been working on as far as platform organization, so I can answer a lot of questions. I'm still in, not done with it, but I had a feeling this question was coming up today, so I wanted to try to get as much info as I could. So when you look at a budget, and it's public, it's all public records, and I've pulled it up. Actually, I've been analyzing the last 3 budgets to see where it's gone up, down, over and out, With that said, you got to factor in all the revenue and income too, and I haven't gotten to that point yet. So it's easy to say, yeah, let's give this department more money or that department more money. But one thing I can say as far as budgeting is Mayor Galvin did a wonderful job securing this city's financial status. I mean, we are a comfortable, if not wealthy city. He did a great job building that AAA bond rating. And when budgeting, especially for me, it's very important that just because you have the money doesn't mean you go spend it all. It's like I teach my children at home, as I grew up, first got a job. Yay, I'm making at the time, $7 an hour, got a paycheck for $50 come Friday.
You just aged yourself. We just now can do all the math. I just want you to know that.
50, I'm only 37. I'm 37. It was, you go spend it, but as you get older, you learn from your mistakes. And like I try to teach my children, just because you have $500 coming in, and I know there's a lot more than that for the city revenue, obviously, but just because you have $500 coming in this week, doesn't mean you spend the whole 500. Doesn't mean you spend 400. You really got to weigh out your pros and cons, your wants versus your needs. I teach my children, okay, you want that $150 guitar. When you get a job, you're getting paid $15 an hour, they take out taxes. So you're gonna have to work 13, 14 hours just to buy that guitar. Do you really need it right now? And it's one of those lists with the budgets that I want to sit down with department heads, union officials across the board, ask them what are their needs, not wants, but what are their needs, and really work at the table to come up with solutions. If it's something that they need, there's going to be a way to get that money in the budget for them. And again, there's a lot more work involved to study the budget. So I'm, again, still planning it, but this is how I even run up, the business. And when I say business, just so you know, I don't know if you're right. I did have involved in several businesses in Woburn, but for a chunk of my life, from right after school on until I moved back home in 2013, I ran a resort up in New Hampshire. I was in the Yogi Bear franchise, and I worked for a gentleman that owned 16 different campgrounds. He promoted me at the age of 24 as general manager. And in a short window season, I was responsible for millions of dollars coming in and out. I had staff of 70 under me, was just it. And that's where I really got my business drive, budgets.
All right, I gotta ask. I want you to tell me your biggest mistake that you learned from and your thing you're most proud about from that yogi experience. The
most proud is it really, okay, I'll be honest, when I first started working there, I started as a teenager, did my summers up there and was away from home. So it was, I'm a teenager, but it really helped me grow up. And I feel that place, it was I'm trying to find the right word. The type of business it wasn't a campground. It wasn't a resort. They called it a camp resort, but I dealt with so much variety of things, both positive, negative, dealing with emergency situations with police, fire, EMT, sadly to say, drownings, there was all these different type of life experiences that helped me become the person I am today. And, when you've got 15 to 1,600 people any given day or the course of a week on your property, and I lived on the property, I was responsible for all of them, their safety, making sure they had a good time. Now, could I please everybody? Did everybody have a good time? No, you're never going to please everybody. But I woke up every single day to give them the best vacation and experience they possibly could have. And those that left maybe not happy, I did whatever it took to make them happy to come back. I try to be a people pleaser, not that you can please everybody, but I try.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, let's actually talk about that for a minute, because people pleasing is important. And if you want people to heard, you said earlier, you want people to feel heard, right? That's really important. The mayor has to say no to a lot of, it's just like, right, the reality is good, bad, and different. You hope that the mayor says yes to the things that you believe are most important and no to the things that you think can wait. But it's hard. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different viewpoints. How will you balance that sort of innate desire to please, right, and your background in a service business with the challenge of the fiscal responsibility and trying to do the overall goodness for the city?
So I love this question because I deal with it every day. At the bowling alley, at home, personal life. I mean, this is an awesome question. I love. It's okay. One, even as a parent, we hate to say no to our children. So I'm going to look at the residents as, okay, I'm the dad.
Depends on the day, Mike. There are days that I take joy in saying no. I'm not going to lie.
Certain things I'm going to agree with you too. But at the end of the day, when I go behind that closed door, I lay in bed and I go, oh, should I have said yes? Could have, so
we want everything. We want our children to be happy and like sincerely, like deeply happy. And that, of course, we want them to feel joy and see the sparkle when we get to say yes to them.
And I want the residents I want the residents to feel the same way. I want to see that sparkle. And, you're right. There are going to be times that there's going to be no. And going based on, again, from what I've, heard people talk to me about, what I've read on social media, I don't want them to feel that I just said no. A no's always going to come with a reason. We can't do this because we may be able to do this at one time, or we can't get this yet, but maybe down the road we can get something else similar. You know what I mean? A no is never going to just be a no. And it falls back to rewinding to the budget. Department asked me for something, okay, I want to have an even better year than last year. Okay, I'm going to say no, I'll push it off. Instead of just saying no, maybe, while we're at the table, it's okay, it's not no, but how do we get there? Let's work together. Let's get to these numbers to see if we can get to that point. So then this way, they didn't get a no. It was just done on paper as a team that we just couldn't get there. Will they be disappointed? Of course. But behind the scenes, and I'm sure any human being would feel this way, I'm going to feel crushed that I couldn't help that person.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to something that I know you're avoiding asking, but probably because you forgot that I asked it, not because you're really
I'm sorry.
I want to understand from you the hardest lesson you've learned as a business person or just as a human, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, that you think helps you be particularly qualified for this role because of this. We all go through things. We all learn. We all make mistakes. We all do things we regret. And hopefully we get better because of them. And I got a big, long list that everyone in my family will tell you. They'll be glad to tell you all the things I do wrong. But all jesting aside, I'd love to, you grew into a general manager role of a significant facility really fast, very young. And so I'm sure that there are things that you look back on and you learn from that or raising your family or anything. And I'd love to just get a little inside peek in how you think.
Samantha, it's not that I guess I did forget. Sometimes if you haven't noticed in even past interviews, my stories go this way and sometimes just lead into.
It's my job to, I'll just keep bringing us back. That's what I do.
So the answer to your question, I can't, and I don't want to sound like generic. I can't pick just one. Like you've said it, my family, especially if you knew my family, they'll show you that long list of mistakes that I have made and remind me. My big thing is every mistake that I have made in the past. And, let's go back to my campground days and I'm dealing with 70 employees and, thousands of people a week. And I'm in charge of doing the bank deposits. I made tons of mistakes. I've made decisions that I look back and just say, oh my God, if I could go back in time, I'd do it different. But at the same aspect, I don't wish to go back in time and do it different because then I would never learn. And every day I go into work, as easy as the bowlodrome is. I mean, I work during the day, so I have the same league bowlers, the same faces. For the most part, it's easy. But every single day, I learn something new. And I've always, at the campground, I always, and I want to do this, hopefully, if I'm elected mayor, surround myself with people that aren't yes people, that aren't afraid to speak up to me and say, hey, no, I think you're wrong. Maybe we should look at this differently. Because at the same time, that's how I'm still continuing to grow. And even that individual that's telling me I'm wrong, they might learn something new. And it's just every day is a learning curve. Every day we all learn something new. So in answer, not to avoid your question, it's just hard to pick 1, 2, or even 3 things because everything in the past I have done wrong has shaped me to where I am today. Like I tell my children, you can mess up. You can say sorry. Just don't make the same mistake twice. Learn
That's a
your
good
lesson.
point. That is definitely a good point. I want to talk a little bit about, so you have been admin for an unofficial Woburn community residence page, which is, it's not part of anything, right? It's just, you volunteered to do that. In an election year, I know there were some concerns that were raised, and I looks like maybe you've pulled yourself out of the admin function, but I don't like to jump to conclusions. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about if you have done that you have, and why you chose to do that, and if not, why you didn't.
Okay, so I do laugh because it's not just you, it's come up many times. I removed myself as excuse me, the administrator back, I think the end of January. And, looking back, if we want to talk about the past, looking back, I think sometimes running this city is going to be a lot easier than running that social media page some days.
Several of my friends were some of the folks who initiated the page. So I have
And I know
had a backseat view. I have not had a front seat view, but I know how challenging it is and how much work it is. It's actually a lot more work than I think people realize.
it is. And your friends are the ones that kind of promoted me to administrator. Actually, when I took myself off, I thought my phone was broken for a while because it wasn't lighting up with notifications every like 3.2 seconds. Now I have time to run a campaign. I love it. But no, I took myself off, sometime in January as an administrator.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you for clarifying and just letting people know that. I want to talk about housing and growth in the city. So one of the things, personal choices and philosophies aside, the state has said that every city basically has to build additional housing. And we've had people on the show to talk about housing. It's debatable how much housing we need to do, and that's a work in progress. But regardless of whatever that number is, it's going to introduce hundreds or thousands of additional units in our city. Talk to me a little bit about what concerns you have about how our city can absorb those additional people in our community and what opportunities it brings us and how we sort of balance all of those needs and make sure we, I know one of the concerns that I have personally, and I always ask about, is how we don't drive out everyone in our community because the prices go so high, right? That we have a very, imbalanced wealth in our city, and we are not a place that continues to be welcoming for people of more modest means. And so I want to get your point of view on those housing rules that have been in place that we have to meet, and how we as a city are going to make sure we're going to continue to do a good job of servicing everybody.
So again, not to dodge the question, this is definitely a question we're going to have to circle back another interview. I'm going to be honest, like I've said before, I'm not prepared to answer that question because I don't have enough information that I have built yet to answer completely.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Let's talk about, so during the teacher strike, you openly opened the Bolodrome on a really, really cold day. I'm sure you did other things as well, but I know I certainly saw that for teachers to come in and warm up and organize in there, and were vocal about your support of the union and what was happening there. What lessons do you hope we as a city learned from that experience that you would take into office with you?
Teamwork. Simple as that. Teamwork. I can speculate. Obviously, you're right. I am a very large supporter of the WTA and all that's involved. But you hear stories and comments and news articles from both sides. None of us, you or I, we weren't in the room, just the negotiating team on WTA and city ends. So I can't say one way or another what I've learned from their behind the scenes negotiations because I wasn't a part of it. But what I took from it was teamwork. And, even as a community, watching everybody come together, whether you agreed or not, it was just, it was great. I mean, restaurants donating food, etc. And, being down in the center during those rallies, you felt that Tanner pride. I mean, unfortunately, it was under, not the best circumstances. Mm-hmm. And as mayor, I want to see more of those type of events, not strikes, but community events and people sharing food and doing this and doing that without it being in a crisis. Let's bring Tanner pride, bigger and even stronger. And the teacher strike really, to me, was teamwork. I mean, whether you agree on the city end, but they work together as a team. Obviously the WTA didn't like that team, and maybe the city didn't like the WTA team, but we're both teams. And I feel the city's going to come out much stronger because of that strike.
I certainly was bolstered by the number of families that I saw getting involved in the schools that maybe had been quieter for, and I always think that community, that's why I do this, community advocacy and community participation is such an important part of our community and how things get done and how we grow together and how we support each other. Let's talk about, I'm imagining that you're spending more time in things like school committee meetings and city council meetings and things that maybe than you had done before you decided to run for mayor. I know I certainly would. I participate in a lot of things, but not as many as I would if I was running a campaign. Talk to me about what you've learned through observation, either prior to this or as you've begun to spend more time in those things.
Okay, so to be honest with you, I have not attended, I've not attended a lot of meetings in the past. I have followed city politics, whether it was your show, which is actually been a godsend to the city. I mean, you really try to cover everything that's going on. And it's
I'm just nosy, and I like to share my nosiness with the rest of the world. No, I just said thank you. I do, I take it as a gift. I'm very grateful that I have an opportunity to meet a lot of folks, including yourself, and help share what I know are common questions that people want answers to.
So like I said, I follow the city politics and between social media posts, meaning articles, I'm a frequent visitor to the City of Woburn website. Obviously, now with this campaign going forward, yes, they're going to see my face at as many meetings as my schedule allows me to be at. And actually, the last school committee and city council meeting, I just happen to have a previous obligation. But going forward, yes, my face is going to be seen a lot more at those events.
Well, when we connect next time, you have to tell me what you're learning about the process and things, and how you as a mayor will support those things, and in your sort of point of view about that. I think that's great.
And to add, when you said, for the mayor's office, as far as with the city council school committee, it goes back to, again, teamwork. Like I said earlier in this interview, I've been in touch with several different city officials, asking questions, seeing their concerns, problems, suggestions, what we could do if I was elected, what we could do together as a team. It goes back to, I just want full transparency between me and all the departments in the city. And I'd hope the same.
So I have to tell you that whether or not you support current mayors, past mayors, all the people, city council, all the people in this, one thing that I will say for Woburn is that our city officials are very active in our community. They go to a lot of things, they attend a lot of things, they participate in a lot. I highly value that. I appreciate that tremendously, but it makes me question why anybody would want this job, because it's extremely demanding, right? In all of its forms. So talk to me about why you want to do this and why you want to put yourself in a position of which will be dramatically different schedules, lots of different demands, hopefully joyful things in the process. But what is it about this that called to you and said, I want to go in, I'm ready?
So I'm a people person. I mean, there's no secret there that anybody that knows me. Community means everything to me. And you're right. It's going to be a challenging job. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be long days, long nights, maybe even short nights. Yeah, if you get what I mean by short nights, not sleeping, but
you're never going to sleep again. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Correct. So, which I don't anyway, but it goes back. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I tend to. It goes back to my campground days. It was a short window. It was only from May till October was my season, but realistically, the busy season was Bike Week through Labor Day. But during that time, I was on call 24/7. I was in the office 5, 6 in the morning. I'd stay up till fire's out, which was like 1:30 in the morning, and then get called out for security issues at 2, 3, 3:30. So I'm used to a challenge. And the sleep thing, that's not going to affect me at all. And it's actually work that I enjoy doing. I know what you asked me, but I'm kind of forgetting the question because I went off subject again, and I'm sorry.
Being mayor is a hard job, and it takes a lot of commitment. And I was just wanting to understand why, I joke that why would anybody want that job, right? It's, but in all sincerity, I think it's helpful to understand what called you to want to run for mayor. What was the reason that you want to put yourself in a position potentially to have a pretty life-altering role in the city?
So I'm not, during this campaign, I'm not going to run a negative, bashing, dramatic campaign. I'm going to focus on my platform. So when I'm going to answer this question, I don't mean it in a bashing way. But I've been thinking about running for mayor for many reasons, just like anybody that runs for office, because they have a fresh idea that they want to bring to their community. You know, that's one. Two is what really drove me this election was, or this upcoming election, was the teacher's strike. You know, that was a big motivation for me to say, you know, I felt now this is my time. Let's be honest, there was a lot of animosity in the city. A lot going on, and a lot of love on one side, a lot of hate on one side, a lot of hate on the other side, a lot of love on the other side. It was back and forth, and it broke my heart seeing that. And especially, you know, again, it's not a citywide website, but when you're on these resident pages, you know, it's all of us voicing our opinions and feelings. And it broke my heart reading how many people were so upset, not just with the strike, but it brought up other things. And again, if I'm elected mayor, not that I want this to happen, but nobody's perfect. There's going to be probably bashing about me, you know, something that I did wrong. You know, no mayor's ever been perfect and no mayor ever will. But I truly love this community and I truly love all the residents in this community. I'm going to do my best every single day, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And, you know, I promise to do my absolute best to represent the citizens of the city to the best of my ability. I mean,
Thanks. I want to ask you a couple of tactical things and then I'll let you go because I know we've had a long discussion. I appreciate it. So we had a neighboring pond. There was an eagle that recently passed because of what they believe is rat poison from consuming probably rodent. We've certainly had owls at Horn Pond that have struggled the same thing. When things like this happen in our community, and some of the Horn Pond is, by everyone's estimation, one of our gems in our city. Everybody really, I think, works hard to keep that a special place. What actions would you take as mayor to address something like that?
So different cities have been doing different things, and I'm reading different articles. I've actually got 2 calls into 2 neighboring cities to see what they're doing, what the process was. Obviously, their costs if they're willing to share, but I'm sure it's public record anyway. Again, early topic, but I am in the stages of working on it. And you know, the rodent infestation I've noticed in the city is getting worse. And I don't see it getting worse by any type of we're a dirty city or anything like that. It's just we have a lot of construction going on, and you know, they're being disturbed and they're finding homes in my wife's car. So twice in 3 weeks. So it's definitely an issue, and it's something that I am doing research on because something needs to be addressed. And I like the safety route of traps. I think it was Cambridge or one city, I don't want to knock them or anything, but electrocuting traps. But, you know, I think, what if a cat went in there? You know, there's got to be some kind of safety trap, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you know, those are all the things that you need to take into account when you are trying to address a challenge like this. So that's great. One of the things that you said in one of your announcements, and I'm hoping I'm getting the word, I'm paraphrasing, so take it for what it is, but you said something to the effect that it's important to you to run your businesses as fair. You used the sort of fair as the word. What does fair mean to you when you think about what that means and how you would apply that to the city, to city government?
So after like 16 drafts and 3 people looking it over, myself included, then you go and post it. And of course, I reread it 3 more times after it was posted and said, oh, how did we miss this? How did we miss that? So I might have worded it wrong or very vague. But when I say fair business, it goes back to the mentor my mentor when I was up in New Hampshire. He taught me, you're only as good as the people that work for you. And I'm big on team. you know, and I learned real quick what he meant by that. And when I say fair, it's as general manager of a business or mayor of a city, I look at myself no different than someone changing the trash in the center or a cleaning company cleaning my office. You know, I'm equal. Yes, as the saying goes, the buck stops here. You're in charge, so you're the lightning rod. But when I say as fair, it goes back to team. That I wouldn't ask anybody working for me or anybody around me to do something that I'm not willing to do or haven't done it already. And that's where I meant by fair. When I run businesses, I try to be as fair as possible. Yes, someone's always going to say that's not unfair. You know, that's unfair. But I try truly try to run with everybody as a team. And that's
one of the things that I think is complicated about government, right, is that there are so many aspects of the city, right? There will 100%, and I know you know this, be things that you have never done before or you don't know about. It is impossible for a single person or even the entire city council to know all the things, right? That's why we have department heads. That's why we hire good people. Tell me about, but one of the things that we know when we look at our city is we have people who have tremendous expertise, but the reflection doesn't always reflect the diversity in our community in general, right? Across many factors and things. We've talked about this on the show in the past around our school system and things like that. How would you go about making sure that we're bringing in the best people with the best expertise and also representing home as much as we can, encouraging people to grow within our community, do all the things that makes a team a place you want to be at?
You know, it's very difficult not with a question like that, but a situation like that, because I went through this in all the businesses I've been involved, that you think, you know, after several interviews and callbacks, you think you just hired the best person in the world. And until you see them in action, you might be rolling your eyes and going and scratching my head going, okay, did I make the right mistake? The big thing for me is owning that mistake and fixing that mistake. And I've always encouraged my employees, or I should say team members. I like to use team members, not employees, but my team members and myself included, I hold myself to the same standard, is I'm not afraid to ask a question to get the answer. If I don't know something, you know, I don't have that attitude, well, I'm the boss, I know everything. No, I'm the first person to ask a question to get the answer. And I would encourage my staff, employees, teamwork, city officials, everybody to do the same thing. You know, if you're not comfortable on something, don't just ask. I might not know the answer, but we'll find the answer. You know, again, open communication, open dialogue. I say for the residents, but I want everybody that works for this city and keeping it the way it is. You know, I want them to feel comfortable to go knock, knock, knock. Hey, Mike, I got a question. I don't care if you've been in the position for 30 years. I might have the answer and I might say, let's find someone that might. You know, it's again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, learning from our mistakes. So as far as hiring the right people, you don't really know until they're in their position.
Well, you raise a good point. It's not just about hiring people. Most of our positions are filled and will be filled. It's, you know, it's about training and culture and all the things that go. Thank you so much for indulging lots and lots of conversations. I know we'll talk again in the future. As a sort of last thought, I want to give you an opportunity to sort of speak to the residents of Woburn and talk about why you feel you're a great candidate for mayor, and any other information you want to share about where people can continue to stay connected to you and learn more.
Yeah, so it goes back to, and I know we talked about a lot, and sometimes even off camera when you and I talk, we love to chat. We share that in common, I feel. And I love that. And it goes back to sum everything up. I'm looking to run a down to earth, as honest as could be campaign. I'm gonna be honest. Like I talked to someone today, I'm not a politician. I don't have a political background. Someone asked me if I was today at work, if I was a Democrat or Republican. I said, I'm a DeRienzo. I am me. I'm not one way or the other. I'm going to wake up, fight, and do what's best, what I feel is best for the residents of this great city. And look forward to meeting a lot of people that I haven't met yet. As we get underway, there's going to be the knocking on the doors. They're going to be seeing me, and I promise I won't talk their ears off. You know, I'll keep it respectable, but I hope that people can join us at our kickoff party, our official kickoff party, which is Friday, May 5th at 7. We're hosting at the St. Anthony's Club. That's going to be our kickoff event. We're going to plan some other events too. Myself and my campaign, we're working on I'm a party guy. I like things. I love music. You know, I want it to be, yes, formal, make a speech and meet people, but I want people to come out, relax, meet me, just see how chilled I am. You know, I just, and down to earth, and how I truly do want to listen to them, and then enjoy festivities, etc. Right now we are working on my webpage. It's not fully done yet. Got a great team working on that. Right now it's just on Facebook. Facebook.com, you know, /MCD for Mayor of Woburn. And then they can always reach me too at mcdformayorofwoburn@gmail.com. The email box is always open. The only time I don't answer is if I'm driving or sleeping.
Well, you need to not answer at those times. Have you officially pulled papers, or are you in the process still of collecting signatures and things?
I haven't processed papers yet. No, I haven't pulled papers yet.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us and learning. Woburn, as always, we will continue through our election cycle. I'm so excited to see lots of people throwing their names into the community positions. We've seen a lot of announcements about mayor. We will see announcements about other positions, I'm sure, in the coming days. And it's amazing to see that. I will continue to do my best to ask all the questions that I know we're thinking about. And I appreciate that across our city, people make themselves available to talk and chat and share openly. And I appreciate that, Mike, you've joined me to do that. And Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.